I signed some band, the outlets from Boston, the neighborhoods from Boston, because I liked them. And then all of a sudden, I guess I have to tell you this story. A couple of girls that worked there kept giving me these flyers to this band.
Yeah.
And they were putting them all over the walls and everything. And they kept talking, "You got to come see 'em." I'm like, this band looks like a bunch of. I looked at them and I'm like, what is this? Some New York Dolls ripoff band? Because that's what they look like. So finally, they were persuasive. In fact, one of them, Debbie Rogers, is still a good friend of mine, and I'm staying at her house in L.A. I'm going to house sit for her when she goes to Europe in September or October. But we're still friends. And this happened in 1984, okay? So I finally said I agreed to go to a show at the Troubadour. It was one of the rooms I hadn't been to yet, and I heard about it, and I was like, the Troubadour, it's a famous place. So I get there, and I look, and there's a line of women waiting to go in the bar. And I'm like, there's all women here. I swear to you, man. The place holds like 200 people, and I swear 180 of them were women. So I had guest list. She got me on the list. Like, A&R guy from Enigma is going to go come and check your band out. So the band is, by the way, Poison, okay? So I walk in and I go upstairs to the balcony, and I was like, wow, the bunch of bands open I didn't know, but apparently Warrant was one of them. And there were a bunch of, I used to see like bands like Faster Pussycat, Warrant, Guns N' Roses did a lot of club dates, LA Guns, I saw them all the time. All these bands played clubs. Rat and Motley Crue had already jumped up a notch, and they didn't play those clubs as much because they had gotten signed by that point. So I'm in the balcony, and then they play. It's a goth song comes on, and it was "The Beauty of Poison." The band's on the tip of my tongue. They were a goth band. But the song "The Beauty of Poison" comes on, and then all of a sudden the lights go on, balloons, and the three guys rush to the front of the stage, and I was like, shit, these guys are pretty good. And they sucked me in, and I went backstage after, met the whole band. Matt Smith was still the guitar player in the band. CC DeVille wasn't even there yet. So I hung around with them, and Bobby and I connected, which is odd because Ricky's the one I'm still friends with now. I haven't talked to Bobby. I saw Bobby 10 years ago, maybe. But Ricky and I went to Fenway Park to see Poison when they played with Motley Crue and Def Leppard, and I went and hung out with Ricky at his hotel room after. So I'm still friends with him.
Oh, wow.
So I talked to Bobby, and Bobby, they didn't have a manager yet. Vicky Hamilton was kind of their manager, but she was also on the way out. They had issues with her. She had this documentary come out recently where she's taking credit for everything, and I'm like, I texted Rick, and I'm like, did you see that? And he's like, don't mention her name to us, No. Glad we're documenting this. So I ended up spending, no lie, 6 months trying to convince everyone at Enigma to sign Poison, and no one wanted to sign them. Nobody. And every label passed on them. Finally, I was so persistent, and Bill Hine did an interview once, and he wrote, they asked, how did you get Poison? And he wrote, kind of ticked me off the way he worded. He goes, a guy that used to work here said he would quit if we didn't sign him. I was like, thanks for mentioning my name, Bill, but I got enough credit for it. I didn't care. Later, I was in all these magazines. So finally, we signed him for $20,000.
Wow.
$20,000. Okay, it ended up going up to 2,000 because Rick Brody, I believe was his name, he produced the first 8 songs, but it didn't have. There's something missing. Well, CC DeVille had 2 songs. He was now in the band now. He had 2 songs from his old band. Look What the Cat Dragged In and Talk Dirty to Me. So Ron Gowdy and Jim Faraci went in there, recorded those 2 songs. Look What the Cat Dragged In ended up being the title. And Talk Dirty to Me was their first hit. Cry Tough was the first single, but Talk Dirty to Me blew up, and then the ballad came, and that was it. History after that.
Wow. And now they're one of the biggest hair bands of all time.
By the way, that $22,000 budget resulted in $4 million in sales. We didn't even have the band long. Capitol kind of scooped them up, man, right from us. We were an independent label. We had this distribution deal, and next thing you know, once Capitol got involved, We had nothing to do with Poison anymore. In fact, I was gone by the time Poison exploded. But when they came to New York and I was working at Roadrunner, I got to go to the Madison Square Garden show, and they opened for Rat. And then I went backstage, and we made it, man. I'm hanging out with the band, and Ricky Rocket introduces me to his parents, and it made my day. He goes, if it wasn't for this guy, we wouldn't be here. And I was like, wow, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened. I had a King Diamond shirt on, and I showed up backstage at Madison Square Garden.
Well,
Anyways,
I hope the label gave you a pretty big fruit basket
Nothing.
for doing that.
I got nothing for Poison.
I can't believe you signed Poison. That's so
I can't either. For a few years afterwards, I never even told anyone.